Hi, this is Chad. Welcome to High Floor Fantasy. We're going to have a look at our top 10 tight end finishes after week 5. Top 10 tight end floor ratings. If you like this, click on that subscribe button floating around in the bottom right hand corner there. And when you're done here, I'd appreciate it if you go over and check me out on Patreon so you can support the channel. You get more stuff. Really appreciate that. Let's kick it off here. Top 10 tight ends. Number 1, Travis Kelce, floor rating of 100. Getting tired of seeing the name up there. Over 18 points per game. 3-week average, over 13 points. Highest total of over 90 points of all the tight ends. However, here's something interesting. He has the highest total. He does not have the highest average. Gronk has the highest average. Why? Because Gronk hasn't played in as many games, right? The highest total and the highest average aren't always correlated. That's why I like to consider, that's why I consider both in the floor rating number. So, interesting little bit of trivia there. Highest total isn't always the highest average. These guys, man, low floors for all top 10 tight ends. Not one of them is even over 10 points. Kelce just over 6 points. He established his floor in week 4. His ceiling was over 25 points. He established that in week 1, came out of the gates blazing. Well, no, he's only gone up from there. If your ceiling is in week 1, that's not so good. But what am I talking about? I'm getting this all confused here. See, I'm so mad, Travis Kelce. Ceiling, over 25 fantasy points per game, established in week 1. He's done nothing but go downhill from there. Damn it. All right. Yellow on the standard deviation, 7.58. See, almost went off the rails there. I gotta get myself back together. Let's move on to number 2. Mark Andrews, Baltimore. I hope you had somebody from Baltimore in that Monday Night Football game for week 5. Man, what a show. Mark Andrews, floor rating 85.95. Over 16 points per game average. Highest 3-week average, over 23 fantasy points. Total of over 84 fantasy points, which, let's see, total of over 84. Floor of not even 6 fantasy points established in week 1. Highest ceiling of over 41 fantasy points. He established that in week 5. Yeah, that was that game on Monday night, man. I had him, man. God, that was so awesome. Okay. Problem with Andrews, low floor, high ceiling. That means his consistency is not going to be great. He's in the red. He is the least consistent among all tight ends with a standard deviation of 14.34. That's the price you pay for a low floor and a high ceiling. Mark Andrews, number 2, floor rating 85.95. Here's a name that I don't think anybody preseason would have said was going to be up here in the top 10, much less number 3. How about Dawson Knox from Buffalo, floor rating of 84.5. Over 14 average points per game, over 18 for a 3-week average. He's been trending up. Goodness, he was. I don't know where he went in drafts. He absolutely late rounder. I got Fant's coming up. I punted in one league and got Fant, so he's going to show up here later in the top 10. But Dawson Knox, let's see, total of over 74 fantasy points. Floor of over 8 fantasy points. He established that in week 1. Ceiling of over 20. He established that in week 5. Standard deviation in the yellow, 5.93. Dawson Knox, surprise for me, number 3. Not a surprise for me, Darren Waller, because I was on him and I was recommending him. Floor rating, 81.26. Over 14 points per game average. 3-week average of just over 11 fantasy points. Total of not quite 72 fantasy points. Floor of over 8 fantasy points established in week 5. Ceiling of over 26 fantasy points established in week 1. He's in the yellow on standard deviation at 7.18. Too bad about the coach, huh? They're coming for you. You send an email, they're going to go 10 years. That's 10 years old. If you cheated on your math test in 3rd grade, they're coming for you. And I know that this is a different situation than cheating on the math test in 3rd grade. This is a grown man who shouldn't have been doing things like he did. But you got to be a saint, man. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, I guess, They're coming for you. Moving on, Dalton Schultz, Dallas, floor rating 76 even, over 14 points per game, 3-week average of over 19 fantasy points. He's trending up. Total of over 71 fantasy points for the year. Very low floor, let's see. Not quite the lowest floor in the top 10, but still very low. Not even 4 fantasy points, established in week 2. Over 25 points for a ceiling, established in week 3. Orange on the standard deviation at 8.28. Atlanta, Kyle Pitts. Here's one where I say I was wrong. I am not into the rookies, and especially when they're hyping the guy up as some kind of generational thing. Floor rating of 64.79. Interesting to look at the floor rating numbers. Look at how much they fall off compared to, say, go back to the wide receiver video and look at the difference between number 1 and number 10. The difference between number 1 and number 10 here is almost 50 percentage points. But Kyle Pitts, Atlanta, I was wrong. He's in the top 10 after week 5, so that's not common for rookies. Over 12 points per game average, almost 14 points for the last 3 weeks average. Total not quite 61 fantasy points for the year. Floor of over 5, established in week 3. Ceiling not quite 27 points, established in week 5. Orange standard deviation 8.62. You got to admit it when you're wrong. I was wrong about Kyle Pitts. I stayed away. Maybe it was a mistake. Here's one that wasn't a mistake. T.J. Hockenson. DeAndre Swift, T.J. Hockenson are the bright spots in this offense. Floor rating of 61.99. Over 12 points a game average. 3-week, he's had a rough couple of weeks here. 3-week average is just over 5 fantasy points, so he's definitely had a rough patch here. But he's still number 7, and let's hope he can get through it. 60, not quite 62 total points. Lowest floor of the top 10 at not even 4 fantasy points. He established that in week 3. Ceiling of over 25 fantasy points he established in week 1. So orange, you got over 25 points for a ceiling and less than 4 for your floor. That's a big standard deviation. 10.21. That's in the orange category. But I'm not selling him just yet. All right, number 8, New England, Hunter Henry. Floor rating of 60.05. Not quite 11 points per game so far this year. 3-week average of over 13 fantasy points. Total of over 53 points for the year. Over 6 points for his floor, established in week 1. Not quite 20 points for a ceiling, established in week 5. Okay, here's some good news. The last 3 guys are good news on standard deviation. They're all in the green. 5.69. More consistent, coming in at number 8. That was another offense I avoided. I wouldn't have targeted Hunter Henry at all. So there's another miss for me. You got to keep yourself honest. This one, honestly, it was a punt. I did get Noah Fant in one league. Denver, floor rating of 54.35. It's actually 54.36 on my notes. So somebody's wrong, either the slide or my piece of paper. But that's 1/100th of a percentage point. Close enough. Over 10 points per game average. 3-week average of over 8 fantasy points. Over 50 points total for the year. Very low floor, not even 4 fantasy points. Gosh, so inconsistent these guys. Well, look at this though. His floor, he established it in week 3. He's tied for a ceiling with the number 10 entry here at not quite 17 fantasy points. Both established in week 4. His standard deviation is green, 5.62. You'd think with a floor that low, but see, his ceiling isn't very high either. So consistent, just not consistently high scoring. I punted on one team and got Noah Fant late, and he is in the top 10. I hope he can stay there. All right, finishing up here with the tight ends. Dallas Goedert, 53.08 floor rating. Almost 10 points per game average. 3-week average over 9 fantasy points. He's fairly consistent as well. I already said he was in the green. Over 48 points total. Floor of not quite 4.5 fantasy points established in week 2. Tied with Noah Fant, not quite 17 fantasy points for a ceiling, and both established in week 4. 5.50 standard deviation in the green. So there's your top 10 tight ends. If you like this, click on that subscribe button. Please go check out Patreon. You get more. You get up to about the top 40 quarterbacks and tight ends every week. You get the top 75 or so running backs and wide receivers. I take out guys that are on injured reserve, so sometimes it won't be totally like 75. It might be 73, 72, you know. But you get those. You can print those out. They're color coded with the floor ratings, green all the way down to red, and then you get more audio and more video. It's definitely worth checking out, and it's very affordable. So hang around for another couple of seconds. You can click on through to a video. You can learn more about the floor rating, or you can check out the, I'm going to link to the wide receiver video. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.